125 VPNs. So you said you don't like ExpressVPN, I will go for OpenVPN or NordVPN. It might interest you to know that it's still being owned by the same company. Do you understand that? So you're still sharing your information to the same company, but through a different application or a platform. So why I'm saying this is VPNs, of course, they don't really hide your anonymity, because if the big guys need your record, they come and tell you this is a matter of national security. We are looking for this person. If you don't give us this information, we'll assume you are being an accomplice to fraud, because these guys are obliged to give the government whatever they want. So let's talk about the anonymity. But I've tried to establish the fact that privacy and anonymity are two different things, and we usually mix them up many a times. Can we go on to the next? So reward applications of blockchain in privacy. Now, there are ways blockchain has been implemented to contain privacy. One of those ways is through the implementation of cryptocurrencies. We also have an example as Bitcoin, and this is the reason why I'm actually spending so much time talking about Bitcoin, because it's the widely used. Is Bitcoin the quintessential Nigeria, quintessential students? We know Bitcoin, we relate to that very well, and that is why I spend little amount of time talking about that. So Bitcoin provides the pseudonymity, which means they do not give personal information, but of course, I will uncover some certain areas of where we have lapses in Bitcoin. Do you understand? There are places where we have lapses in the Bitcoin that could leak our information. Now, why Bitcoin is privacy focused, there are actually some cryptocurrencies like Monero that does so well in protecting the user identity and every transaction that happens on the platform. Let me leave cryptocurrency. Another reward example is decentralized identity. So systems like Sovereign and Uports, they enable users to control their digital identities, and they share only the necessary information. Now, when I was writing my certification for my certified ethical hacker, I met a very amazing guy. This guy has been hacking since like 14. Also he has caused a lot of havoc. Worked also in the US military and all of that. And then he was working on a project called Digital Identity. Yeah. And we at this part of the world have not started utilizing that. But on the global world, digital identity is now a thing. So a lot of persons are now looking at making digital identities. I can create as much fake digital identities as I want. And many digital identities these days are now being implemented with blockchain technology. Web3. So, of course, we also look at healthcare. Healthcare is another area where it is being utilized. Blockchain securely store medical records. Now, why are people so interested about medical records? I'll tell you one thing in my field for free. Many times, people have asked me these questions, even in radio interviews, and why do hackers hack banks? Sorry, not banks, hospitals. What are they looking for? Why do they hack? Some people say, I don't have anything, even if you hack me. But sometimes we are not just looking for your information. We are interested in who you know and who we can access through you. So always have the idea in your mind that it's not about you. Protect your own privacy and identity as much as you can. But let me go back to what I was saying. So why we are talking about health records, there's a body called HIPAA, H-I-P-P-A. These guys undergo compliance of health infrastructure. Do you know that if, for example, I go to a hospital in the US and I was diagnosed for a particular ailment, and that record, my health record get exposed, I can sue the hospital for exposing my bank record, sorry, my health record. So these guys protect health record by all means. And that is the reason why when ransomwares, hackers want to hit big organizations, hospitals within their list. Because if they hit a hospital and they tell them, look, we'll release these records if you don't pay us this money, the hospital, they have to think it through. They will have a lot of court cases if many of these things get leaked. Some persons are having high illness and they want to just keep it private. And HIPAA also ensures compliance that if a health record gets leaked, they have every right to revoke the license of that hospital, shut it down completely, and in many cases, they can fine them thousands of dollars because of that. So many a times, health record is high priority information that they keep secured. Now, let's go on to the next slide. So privacy enhancing technologies, this is where we will be spending a little bit much time on what tools do we use for enhancing privacy. I have something called mixing services. I'll be explaining that in my next slide. So this thing has to do with a coin shuffle. I'll be explaining that. Many a times people are concerned about how, okay, I will explain that. My next slide has the detailed information. People are concerned about how transactions can be traced in blockchain technology. You know, I've been able to establish over time that blockchain is not entirely anonymous as people think it is yet. And that's because there were tools we used in my previous presentation with Code 247. I uncovered tools that we use in cryptocurrency investigation, even so that is there are tools that can do that. Now we also have confidential transactions. These transactions, they hide the amounts being transferred. They increase privacy that way. These are different tools. We also have secured multipath computation. It's a method or cryptographic method that allows parties to jointly compute a function over their inputs. They keep those inputs private. Let's go to the next slide. Let me explain in more details, giving you a proper storyline. Now, I'll explain that these are the issues we have in blockchain. You want to pay attention to this. Now, because cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, is a technology on the blockchain, I want to explain a real-world application of blockchain. Now, we understand that we need to understand that public addresses are enormous. Therefore, blockchain cannot be really tied. A personal address can't be tied to one person. A public address can't be tied to one person. We have millions of public addresses, and all of them are carrying out transaction every day, most times. Now, all transactions are recorded on blockchain. That is one thing. And it is recorded and visible to everyone. We have established that IP address can be logged by nodes. Crypto is P2P. That is another issue. Many times when you carry out transactions using some of these platforms, your IP addresses get logged. Remember, IP addresses carries approximate location of where you are. And there are further informations we can uncover from IP addresses. One of my investigation long time ago, I figured out how to, if you are using a VPN, there's a tool I could use that could tell me the kind of VPN you are using, does some kind of reverse engineering to help me discover that. Now, analyzing transaction graphs and group addresses together, this is the important aspect that I want us to pay attention to. So many a times, remember when transactions are being done, I remember saying that all transactions basically carry public address, and sometimes it can log IP address. Let's go to the next slide. So because of this issue, some researchers in the Cornell University, they did some kind of crazy research, and these guys decided to try to uncover how less anonymous blockchain, Bitcoin particularly, is. So what this guy did was something we call a transaction graph analysis. And what happened was they monitored transactions that was done. These guys, they monitor transactions, anonymous donations that was done to WikiLeaks. So what they did was they have a method to group all the transactions pattern. They monitored the pattern of how these people were carrying out these transactions. And when they monitored it, they grouped them. This image you see there was grouping a consistent pattern. I remember saying that sometimes when you create your fake profile to commit fraud and crime, you do that, but your pattern remains, right? So do you know what happens? I remember when I try to preach about anonymity, I talk about stylometry. I talk about desisting from your pattern. If I want to be anonymous, I created a user profile. Maybe I like football very well. The new profile I create, I would not do any business with football. I would do everything with maybe another kind of sports or not even sport at all. You are trying to create a completely different pattern because I'll say for everything you do in the internet, every application you use in the internet stores a tiny fraction of information. You use Google Keep Notes. Google Keep Notes might just store your IP address and one information. They might store your typing pattern, your typing speed. You use Facebook. Facebook might store your most liked news. What time did you come on Facebook? What time did you leave? Over time, your pattern can be studied and you can attribute it to a user. So I've done this in investigations. You have suspects. You only need to study the patterns of the suspects. Assign your suspect used. When you study the pattern, you most likely might find a linking. Now, these guys did something similar here. They studied the pattern of the transactions that came in, the amount that usually comes in. And when they did that, they were able to group these patterns together and were able to uncover the IP address or information of where these people were consistently sending money from. Now, here is the idea of the open-ended thing in the blockchain industry. If I know this media's guy, his public address, I can see every information about him, but no other person can. It's a matter of me having to figure out, I can know who and who is sending money to, and whosoever I see their public address is sending money to, I can go and also track their own pattern, see who this person is sending money to. And many a times, chain analysis can make us, there's a tool called chain analysis, right? It's interesting to know that I have people who are in my field as well. So there's a tool called chain analysis. It can group, pattern everything together and begin to monitor pattern and figure out, okay, these are who set of people, these are transferring money to, this is the time they do it, this is the location they are from. And in my field, in investigation, we say every piece of information is very valuable. It's very valuable. Why? I piece of this information together. And it's more like when I use the phrase, little drops of water makes an ocean. It might take time, but you can eventually get it. So this is what this guy did. So they proposed the methods to potentially break this anonymity by they analyze the transaction records as networks. They studied it and reviews the identities that are involved in the transaction just by studying the patterns. So it is very possible. Let's go to the next slide. So, like I said, this method is called transaction graph analysis. Are we together? Now, how do we solve this issue? Do you know, because there was this loophole that exists, this guy came up with something we call tumblers and mixers. Are you in the blockchain industry? Oh, okay. So I have someone who is really, really affirming to what I'm saying. It's good. So tumblers and mixers, these guys came up with, put together. Who's in the blockchain industry here? You purchase Bitcoin. So you want to pay attention to this. Now, tumblers and mixers is basically a platform or a method, technically I would say it's a technology that was created, and its sole purpose was to solve the issue of monitoring a person's transaction. Remember, if I transact, I can know who you sent money to and how much you have left. I can also go to the person you sent money to through their public address, find out who they received money from, you can begin to go in circles so you make a huge case. It's going to be enormous, but of course we have tools that make it less hectic. Those tools are very costly, like chain analysis. Now let me go forward. So what tumblers do is, I don't know whether to give this story. So a drug dealer, you are a very normal guy. I think we can relate to this story so that I don't speak too much jargon. You are looking for a job and you said, I'm ready to do or deal on anything. Who has a job to help me with the job? And one drug dealer comes and tells you, okay, we only want you to help us deliver so products and we'll pay you, but we will pay you in Bitcoin. And the money is huge. So you're like, okay. And you know that if truly they want to trace this issue, they can trace it back to you. So what would you do? You decide to say, okay, you get into the deal, they get you paid. Now, remember, I said that if the feds want to track you through this method, they can track all your transactions and see who you received money from. They can uncover that this person is a drug dealer and they come for you. Do you know what tumblers now do? It's a service that when you want to transact, you go through that service. Everybody, your money enters that service. Your coin, the person paid you 1,000 or some say 5 Bitcoins. Your coin enters into this service. Many other person's coin enters into the service, rumbles everything and transacts, scatters everything. That's why I have the blender sign here. So it mixes everything up. So different amounts comes out. So instead of your money coming, maybe the money is no longer sent. The drug dealer who wanted to send you money followed through the tumbler method. It will not be his account that ends up sending you money. It will be somebody else's account that ends up sending you money. Do you understand the concept? Are you sure we do? So Tumblr does this thing whereby it makes it difficult for you to find out who and where this money is coming from, because the Tumblr technology mixes it with a bunch of other coins and uses different address to transact. So I can't figure out where your money actually comes from. That is a form of anonymity, or privacy, not anonymity. Is a form of privacy we are looking at here. Now, back to what I'm saying. So this method was employed, and the US and many other big organizations didn't like the idea. So there's been a rumble whether this is illegal or not illegal. That's because why can't I track? I'll tell you, the feds are not your friends. These guys like to have control of your data. They fight anything that makes them not to be in control. And they've been fighting against this thing, but you can't say tumblers are illegal. But like I said, the whole idea of tumblers was to make it difficult to track an organization, also a transaction. But do you know the sweet thing about tumblers? The highest amount or the higher amount of persons that uses the service, the more difficult, or I wouldn't want to use the word impossible, but the more difficult it is to track. Why? Is because my coin is coming in through here, and if you have 5, it rumbles my coin with 5 people, and one of those 5 persons ends up transferring money to me, to who I want to send money to. But the more people we have here, the more mixing it does. So you're mixing with probably 3 million persons. The more amount of persons that uses the Tumblr service, the more difficult it is to find out or trace the transaction because of how the mixing is done. Okay, I'll be rounding up soon. Next slide, please. So now, I want to talk about the key anonymity usage. You want to also pay attention to this. There are 3 ways that you can be traced. One is your point of buying, your way of storing, and your point of selling. I'm supposed to use the word selling, but I use the word paying. All right, right? Buying, storing, and selling. Now, remember, many of you buy from an exchange. When you buy from an exchange, you go to maybe like bitcoin.com, you go to whatever platform to purchase Bitcoin. And when you want to purchase, you sign up your real information or any fake information that has left you an open end, which means you purchased with real money, right? But with your real information, because you can't use those exchange services without your real information. Many of them, they will do BVN verification because they are sending money directly from your bank automatically. Many a times people pay from Bitcoin ATMs, slightly more secure, but we don't have Bitcoin ATMs in this part of the world. And the sweet one is paying cash for Bitcoin, make it more anonymous technically. So in storing, my advice would always remain, always store your Bitcoin on a hardware wallet. And why is it? Because it is difficult for persons to go and be able to check the amount of your storage and all of that. It's a hardware wallet. It's not on a software. Your hardware wallet is like a flash drive. All your money is in that flash drive. One of the secured ways to store your Bitcoin. And then in paying, this is where people make mistakes. You can be secured by using an anonymous platform to make a transaction. You stored it in hardware wallets, but when you were paying, you paid with your real information. It's also flawed. To curb real anonymity, I have 4 solutions to this anonymity. Some are difficult than some, but it's just for educational purpose. You need to have an idea. You can obtain Bitcoin anonymously. That is one aspect. So when you obtain Bitcoin anonymously, even if you mess up in the remaining aspect, which is your storing and when you are purchasing, the idea is you stored your real information was stored. Purchasing Bitcoin anonymously is very difficult. Yeah, but they've tried to make easier platforms like Monero. You can purchase Bitcoin from Monero anonymously, or you can pay cash from someone, pay somebody cash, collect Bitcoin anonymously. Now, when you obtain pay anonymously, you can store in hardware wallets, and then you pay maybe through any platform. The second one is you can obtain Bitcoin from an exchange, which is you are vulnerable there. An exchange will require you to have a KYC. They might store one kind of ID, your IP address. They are just normal your Binance exchange platforms like your Binance. You don't have Binance without giving real information. They verify it. When you are purchasing your Bitcoin through Binance with your real information, you can now do what? Convert your Bitcoin to an anonymous coin, which is Monero. You convert to Monero. Monero stores your Bitcoin, and you can use from Monero to anything you want, and it's secured. The third one is you can purchase anonymously, convert to Monero, and also use it from Monero. And finally, you can purchase Bitcoin directly from Monero anonymously. So Monero is one of the top platforms it is one of the top platforms. My next slide shows privacy coins. If you want to check out the next slide. Sorry, yeah, just back. Yes, there. The previous slide, rather. Again. So the previous slide showed some privacy coins. We have Monero, we have Dash, we have Zcash, we have Verge, and we have Pivix. So this is the platform. So I'm trying to also demystify the idea that anonymity is not how we think it is. One, privacy is basically protecting not your identity, but your transaction, your information, and other things apart from your identity. That is privacy. Every day we try to do privacy and we lie to ourselves that we are anonymous. Use incognito mode that obviously is not incognito. I mean, Google literally have access to all your information. You probably use VPNs that are stored, logged, and you think whatever you're doing cannot be seen. Lie to ourselves. I would still say that is you doing privacy. Why? Is because all your traffic, what you are doing, places you are clicking are being seen by your ISP. It is a decision to give out this information or not. So we've demystified that idea. Can we go next? Let me wrap up. So that is the whole idea. So you need to know which works for you. You either buy anonymously, or anonymously rather. You're doing three things. You're buying anonymously, or you're buying with an exchange. But when you're storing, best solution, store it on a hardware wallet. When you are selling your coin, you can decide to sell it anonymously, or you can sell it through an exchange. If you will sell through an exchange, buy anonymously. If you buy anonymously, you can decide to sell to another centralized platform. It's fine. All right. So my key takeaways and summary is, despite Bitcoin technical anonymity behavior, despite Bitcoin's claimed anonymity, there's the human behavioral pattern and the transactions that happen on the network, which carefully with good tools can be tracked, can be used to reveal identities. So it is not as the way we think, but I'll tell you that blockchain is really evolving, and that's the reason why we are having events like this. That's the reason why we have smart persons like us here. It's evolving to a way, or to the session where we can begin to look at real proper anonymity. Secondly, I would say when it comes to the next slide, please. The next takeaway is, when it comes to anonymity, there's no silver bullet to anonymity or privacy, especially privacy. There's something we call defense in depth. Defense in depth is using multiple layers of security. When I talk about anonymity, I talk about three ways I want to secure or do anonymity. I do it in beginner's level, intermediate, and advanced. If I want to do my anonymity in advanced level, I would not use my system to run anything. You use a VPS that you purchase anonymously. And VPS, for starters, is called a virtual private server. You literally are purchasing a computer online. And also, even depending on where you are purchasing your VPS also matters. So there are levels to being private or anonymous. Also, we have browser anonymity, I have network level, we have system level. So in privacy, there are many things to do. You can decide to create fake accounts. That doesn't solve your problem. If you create fake accounts and use VPN, may not really solve. You can create a fake account, use VPN, also use proxy. Some persons use fake accounts, VPS, proxy, and then they browse all through using the Tor network. Tor is actually a proxy. The Tor network we're using having access to the dark web. Some other persons just avoid using their system. They use a VPS to run all their transactions, which means if you want to track them, you'll be tracking a PC in Australia. It has no business with them. So these are levels of anonymity. So defense in depth is what we look at. There's no silver bullet. Me would not tell you that if you want to obtain privacy, use just this one solution and it solves all your problem. Nope, that is not the idea. And that is the end of my slide. Thank you so much. So I don't know who has questions for me.